Hello and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Last time we did some unsavory acts in the little place, the student council room, and we talked about our life future goals, and now I don't know what's going to happen. There haven't been any further disruptions since last week. Of course, that's what I thought the week before that, and Shizune and Misha's sudden newfound clarity had left me feeling a little lost and envious. I thought there was no way I could rest easy at the time. But fortunately, nothing came of my worries. Then before I knew it, there was enough to deal with in school, and I even managed to put them off my mind, and still, everything was fine. I was wrong. I'd seen Shizune and Misha's carefully hidden vulnerabilities, but they were still strong. Now we're going to be graduating soon. I've grown so comfortable here that it kinda crept up on me. When it did, I felt sad and didn't want to think about it, so I didn't. Not until recently. About a week ago, I started making a list of people I thought I should say goodbye to before graduation. The first rule I laid out for myself was that I would try not to write them down in any kind of special order, or like least important to most important. Somehow it ended up like that anyway. Even though it ended up being a shorter list than I expected, Kenji is somewhere in the middle. They said I would have to graduate eventually. Well, I showed them. I've lived here rent-free for more than long enough. If you take into account the rising cost of land, I think you could say I've won in the end. No, you know what? I did win. History will acknowledge me as the victor. The victor of what? I managed to stay out of sight and slip through the cracks. I beat the system. If you put it that way, it sounds like you just ran away from the system. Sometimes running is the greatest form of victory, like in the Olympics. I'm too tired to argue with him. Who's he kidding? Everyone knows the shot put is the best Olympic event in any case. So, what you're basically saying is, you won't miss it? Miss what? School, dummy. Nah, I told you. This place is too filled with feminists. It's beyond saving. But at least I'll be able to get out before it reaches critical mass. I'll only come back years later when they build a statue to honor me. Do they do the 10 years later reunion thing here? How would I know? Probably. Anyway, I have to start packing now. Take care of yourself, man. You should have packed a week ago like I did. Not that I had much to pack. That's not how it goes. You're supposed to do everything at the last minute. Men are better at doing everything at the last minute. The last minute can have more productivity than like the entire week before. It's how we keep shit fair. You'll never understand our manly ways. You take care of yourself too. Yeah, get the hell out of my room, you psycho. With a salute, he shoots backwards through the door, slamming it shut behind him, hard enough that the entire dorm probably heard it. I've noticed that a lot of people slam doors here. Maybe it's a local thing. Take care of myself. It's the first time I've heard him say it. Usually he ends our conversations with something like, see ya. I'll pay you back later, man. Well, he was a little annoying sometimes, but I'll miss him. I cross him off my list mentally. The list is very short now, and I once again discard the notion of going through it in any kind of order. Like I said, I never had that intention. So I go out to look for Shizune and Misha. I can only think of one place they could be. The student council room, of course. Turning the corner, I almost bump into a small group of students. For a second, a bitter feeling flashes through me, since for all I know, that could have been fatal. It's the new student council. There aren't a lot of them, but a lot more than 3, which is good since it means there's enough of them that they can each have their own title. It would have been cool if I could have had a little desk plaque with my name and a title on it. I don't think they do that now, or even did, unfortunately. The new student council surrounds me while I'm thinking. If anyone were looking at this from afar, it would be a pretty sinister sight. Even they have come to, finally get back on me for calling them the new student council all those times. I was just translating for Shizune, but I guess I should have been less lazy and more tactful. I regret nothing. I find myself being thanked for everything I've done. I'm being thanked. This should make me happy, considering how often I would think to myself that being in the student council was a completely thankless job. It does make me happy, but I can't enjoy it fully. I wonder how things would have turned out if our student council had grown as large as the one that's set to replace us. Even though they've only got 2 or 3 other members, it's enough that they have set roles, not like us, where Shizune seemed to be the president, but that was it. The new student council thanking me gives me a strange feeling. It's like coming back home and seeing that a tree you nurtured years before has grown. But I feel like I didn't nurture that tree enough. I wonder what more I could have done. It would likely make Shizune furious that I would feel distant from what I did in the student council this way, or that I'd imply I didn't do enough. But it's true, I was only following her. So in a way, I also feel like I'm viewing that same tree from far away, as if I'm seeing it from the window of a train as it passes by. I indulged in these thoughts for too long. When I snap out of it, I realize that I'm still standing there, surrounded by the new student council. I do the only thing I can do and apologize for zoning out, then I thank them back. When they walk away, I enter the student council room, which looks a lot messier, but seems to have gained a computer. Oh, word? New computer? But it makes sense. I recall hearing one of the clipboard girls talking about her plans to use a computer to make all the boring data entry Shizune does more tolerable. I can't remember which one said it though. Aoi seems to be the more ambitious one, and then Keiko appears more serious. Well, it doesn't matter now. I'm not alone in the room, but instead of finding Shizune here like I expected, it's just Misha. She's sitting on Shizune's desk like Shizune herself often does, swinging her legs back and forth. When our eyes meet, she hops off and inexplicably poses like a superhero.
Hi, Chi-chan. I'm surprised to see you here.
What are you doing?
You first.
I was looking for Shizune.
Me too. I thought she would be here, but I got Hee-chan instead.
Gee, thanks. Second place.
Well, this is really good. Really, really. I want to talk to you anyway.
About what? I take the time to glance around the room a little more. I see a hot plate. They are really living high.
I wanted to say sorry, of course, for all the trouble I made for you and Shizune. Or Shi-chan.
Don't call it trouble.
Right.
Don't apologize to Shizune.
Right. But that isn't why I'm here, Hee-chan. I want to apologize to Shi-chan. Since you're here, I want to ask you a question. Hee-chan, what do you think it would take for Shizune to be happy, or Shi-chan to be happy?
World domination, obviously.
Even though you're joking, Hee-chan, no. Even if she could, it wouldn't make Shi-chan happy. Only for a little while. Hee-chan, have you ever heard of artists who tear up their paintings as soon as they finish them? Such people really exist in the world, you know. I remembered it all of a sudden. It's just like Shi-chan. Now that I think about it, whenever Shi-chan sets up a challenge for herself and completes it, she acts like her skills have no meaning anymore. I wonder, is it because she can't create anything permanent? It's just like those artists, and how they want to create a piece of art to leave behind. A really great one, but can't do it. It's really obvious when I look back at it, but I didn't see it before. Now I'm scared. I wonder if Shi-chan will ever be happy.
No, I don't think so. Not about her being happy. I think you're wrong. Shizune is actually happy more often than I thought. I think it's actually kind of amazing. Usually people don't think about that kind of stuff until they're middle-aged or dying. Then they think, I want to leave something behind, or I want to be remembered. Like me. Only I skipped ahead a little. My life was short and seemed even shorter after my heart attack. I didn't think about what I was leaving behind because I was very quickly thought there was almost nothing I was leaving behind. So all that was left was for me to stew in my own bitterness. Shizune already wants to leave her mark somewhere, but she wants to do it by helping people. That's why celebrations are so important to her. She even wants to be a philanthropist. I think it's the best way to live, living on by what you give to others. Even if it's for a selfish reason, that's okay too. Shizune is already happy, because if something goes well, there will always be someone else to see it and remember it. That's what makes her happy. Misha sighs, arms stiff at her sides, hands tapping the air softly.
Before I still thought, I might be able to make Shizune happy, and I was in a good place to do it before. Since I was her interpreter, I could always be with her, maybe. And I thought I would do it by becoming like Shi-chan's shadow. I kept trying even when she rejected me. It felt like I was stuck and I couldn't do anything but watch Shi-chan's back get smaller while she kept going. I was scared, even though I should have just accepted it. It's hard. Maybe I could have at least understood Shi-chan. But it looks like I was completely wrong after all. I didn't even know that, or think about it. Shi-chan would call it a complete loss. Okay, I'm done. That's it, He-chan. But, since you're the one who knows Shi-chan best of all, you can't make her cry, or I'll be angry. I'm going to go overseas after this. I even have letters of recommendation, or I don't think I would be able to go normally. Maybe I'll study and become a sign language teacher over there. Who knows? That means you have to look after Shi-chan, okay?
Misha's smile is as honest as ever, but she's obviously changed. The look in her eyes is that of a much more attentive girl. It seems to be true that hardship builds wisdom. It reminds me of the look in Shizune's eyes. I wonder what Shizune... Huh. I wonder what Shizune might have been through to have become who she is. I could take a guess, or maybe she was always like that. I want to see her even more and suggest to Misha that we should look for her together. Of course, it's just a pretext to spend more time with a friend. It's strange how it hasn't been long since we last hung out together, the three of us in the span of a routine student council day, yet it seems like it was long ago. Thinking about the future can put that kind of lens over the past. Speaking of lenses, outside Yuko is standing around fiddling with a tiny modern-looking camera in her hands. It would be unnoticeable if it weren't metallic enough to reflect the sunlight. Misha calls out to her. I thought we were supposed to be looking for Shizune.
Hi! What are you doing? I'm just taking photos of everyone. That's obvious.
Awkward. Misha, I'll never forget how you taught me that someone can hold so many secrets and still have a massive lack of tact. Where's my photo?
You want a copy? I don't know. Well, only if you promise to keep it a secret, or else everyone will want one too. That happened to me in elementary school, only it was candy. Okay, I'll take a photo of you now then.
Ah, wait, I'm not ready. I was just kidding.
Hey-chan, make a peace sign.
I'm not going to do that. The camera flash goes off, blinding me. Yuko shields herself behind it, letting out a moan of frustration. You're not supposed to turn the flash on outdoors. She starts apologizing unnecessarily, then quietly slips away. Ah, wait!
Yes? Did you see Shi-chan around here? Yes, in front of the gate.
Thanks. I can barely get it out before I have to start following behind Misha. Fortunately, not for very long. The gate is barely a minute's walk from here. Even that can be tiring for me sometimes. We see Shizune with the student council. They're probably thanking her too. As soon as she sees us, she shoos them away, which is very easy since I doubt any of them can understand sign language or use it. So they're not too sad about leaving. Which in turn makes me wonder why they would thank her without someone who can, but it's the thought that counts. Misha immediately hugs Shizune and then leans against the gate next to her. I, on the other hand, decide to hang back a little and let them talk. After all, Misha wanted to talk to Shizune this whole time. I can wait. I even turn away so I don't eavesdrop on the conversation. I end up losing track of time. When I look at my watch, it's already been 10 minutes. I wonder if they're done and turn around to find them behind me. What are you thinking about? Boring philosophical things that I don't want to talk about. Don't worry, I'm not thinking about it too hard. Good. Getting philosophical at a time like this would be the worst thing you could do. Yeah, I just want to stand here for a bit. It's relaxing.
Wahaha! It was a busy week.
Not really. Not for me. I know that they must have been busy, but I think I know what I want to do now, and when it hits me, I didn't feel particularly fired up or anxious. It was the opposite. I feel at peace for the first time in a long time. I want to savor that feeling a little more. I think I want to teach here. As soon as I thought this, a long, winding road appeared in my mind, an uncertain road that leads back here. I wonder if I'll be able to meet someone in the future like me, someone filled with bitterness. I want to talk to that person since I can't talk to myself. I want to tell them that life is too short, something that couldn't be told to me, only shown. I want to do it without pity. If I had been pitied, I'm sure that I'd have only died a little more. When I think about that first week, I still think about how well it went. So well that it could only be called the result of kindness. I feel like I want to show others that same kindness. And I also want to keep chasing Shizune. I mean, she's not gonna be here. Y'all are in the same class, you're graduating.
What did the new student council want, Shi-chan?
It's hard to daydream when you have to deal with Misha's voice. I didn't know they had someone who knew sign language. They don't. I think it was most likely just a goodbye, so I appreciate it even though I couldn't tell them. How did you know I was here? Is it supposed to be a secret? Anyway, we just asked Yuko. Did she take a photo of you too? Yes, without asking me first. Since Yuko doing anything spur of the moment is rare though, I'll let it go. She snaps her fingers more because I think she likes it than out of a realization of an idea. We should take a photo of the three of us. We haven't taken a student council photo yet, now's the perfect chance. But if I have to look at this picture a year from now, I don't want us staring back at me.
What does that mean, Shi-chan?
Pictures are supposed to capture the moment, isn't that right? Without a doubt, they're not portraits, just standing around would be so stiff. It wouldn't even capture how I feel. I feel like we'll meet again, so this isn't an occasion to take such a serious photo. It should be a see you later type of photo. Not a big deal. It should be something more festive. Oh boy.
Like this. Follow me.
Shizune poses like a musketeer so quickly that I'm sure even she knows it's silly. Do we really have to do such a cheesy pose? I can think of no better pose. Misha, go find Yuko.
I don't like the pose either, but I think it's kinda nice.
That doesn't even make sense. I mean, sure it does. You can not like a pose and still appreciate the sentiment. She's already gone, and returns dragging Yuko behind her. The flash is off. A red LED blinks 3 times above it, and after Yuko's finger presses the button, Shizune glances at both of us to make sure we have the timing down. Synchronized watches, we jump. Nobody jumped. None of you were in the air. I bet that turned out excellently. Okay.
Now let's get one with Yuko too.
No, please. That's not necessary. I want a copy of this photo too. I'll likely die younger than the average person. My life could unexpectedly burn out at any time. I don't have any time to waste then. I want to live as much as possible. I also want to see other people smile from what I've made and done. Living vicariously through the happiness of others doesn't seem so bad. Feeling joy through another person's happiness doesn't seem like such a bad thing. It's the easiest way I can think of to draw out my own life and give it distinction. Maybe this is the meaning that Shizune has found for herself. Although it's just my theory. People find themselves alone often in their lives and without direction. However, people can take refuge in moments of happiness. They can dot a person's life just like stops on a train map, or waypoints of memory on a long trail. These individual moments, on reflection, can give a person's life fulfillment. Every friend and festival and joyful meeting and joyful parting. I want to be able to ask Shizune one day if I'm right. I want to spend the time I have with her. Finally, I want to make Shizune smile for herself. I love you. I pause, wondering if she'll look at me, confused, and ask why I'd said it out of the blue. She doesn't. Do they do that reunion thing here? Of course they do. She didn't say it back.
A student council member should know that.
Sooner than that, though, okay? Both of you.
Right.
Yeah. Yuko, you do the pose too. Afterwards, we can go for tea. Shizune laughs as if she doesn't have a care in the world, Misha's laughter joining with hers as easily as if it were her own. We'll meet again. Is there like an epilogue? No, there's credits. Okay. That was Shizune's route. It mostly just seemed like, I don't know, side character story stuff. I don't know. I didn't really connect with it that much, honestly. Mostly I just think I don't like Shizune. She's alright, but like, I don't know. I don't relate. So it's hard for me to like attach myself to her as a character. I mean, there's some cute stuff there, but nah. Not really feeling it. Not really feeling her whole, I don't really get what her deal was. She's just like, I'm aggressive and directionless. Like, okay. Cool. Bye. It's a thing, I suppose. Bloop, 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 bloop. Okay. So I looked at it, and it looks like Shizune only has a bad end. There's no neutral end. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and try and get that. See how fast it is. Alright. We're gonna comfort Misha. She's sad. And this is not the recommended. As much as I pretend to protest, I've allowed things to come to this point, even though I knew so far ahead of when she actually came out with it that this was what she was getting at. At the very least, I was okay with this outcome. If I needed any more proof, it's simple. I still haven't turned her away. I could have at any point, and it was wrong of me not to do it sooner, but now not doing so is something beyond simple carelessness. Misha takes my silence as agreement and squeezes herself against me tightly, as if she is trying to get into my clothes. My arms are enveloped by the softness of her skin and the warmth of her body. I roll over on reflex and end up on top of her. She looks at me as if expecting me to take the lead and closes her eyes nervously the second I return her gaze. I guess I have no choice. I mean, you always have a choice. You could just not. And the other route, in fact, you didn't. And I clumsily begin trying to undress her, something I've never done before. After all, I've only had sex once before, and I was restrained to a chair. Oh no. This time I'm in control like I'd wished then, but it's really kinda scary now that I am. I start by unbuttoning her blouse and slipping it off her shoulders. You didn't have an issue with hers for some reason. Her figure is curvier than I expected and complements her cute face. Alright, this is not important. I don't like how sad the music is. It's so sad. Uh-oh, that's sus as hell. She offers more moments of weak, fake resistance. It's just a formality. That's sus as hell, Hisao. I realize now that formalities are very important to Misha. It's why she always greets everyone so happily, even when she probably isn't happy to see them. Her eyes are open now, and I run my hand up in the inside of her thigh, almost laughing when she shudders and nearly crushes it when she tightens her legs, a genuine reaction and a cute one. Shizune was better at hiding her inexperience, even though she was just as embarrassed. Are you ready? She nods without looking at me. This is the saddest shit I've ever seen. I don't like this. This is really not okay. I don't really want to read it. It upsets me greatly. Basically, they're just like, we're doing this, but no one is having a good time. And then the whole time he's just thinking about Shizune. I'm just like, this is real fucked. Bro, you didn't have to do this. Bro, she's like do it quickly. And then he tries, and she like literally cries in pain, and he stops, and she's like, why did you stop? Bitch, what do you mean? What do you mean? She's like, I want it to hurt. No. Misha. No. They used the word piston into her again. They did it again. Now it's not special. Misha says, this is my first time with a man. It's weird. Stick to the women then. No, this is so fucking sad. He's like, I wish she would stop talking. Her voice is so quiet and breathy that I have trouble understanding her, but the tone of sadness permeating it is unmistakable and only makes me feel guiltier. Not guilty enough to stop, though. I'm still fucking. I'm supposed to be comforting her, but it's entirely physical, and if Misha is being reassured in any way by this, she isn't showing it. That makes me question whether my decision was the right one. I'm really starting to doubt it.
Hee-chan?
I can't hear anything but the ticking of the clock and the sound of my own breathing.
Never mind, Hee-chan.
I search around for Misha's hand with my own and caress it. How light and delicate it seems, even as it grabs me so tightly around my wrist, and the feeling is familiar. That was so fucking upsetting. I hated all of that. It wasn't even that long of a sequence, and I'm thoroughly upset. The following morning, I wake up thinking that most of the time is going to be spent trying to avoid Shizune and Misha. What happened last evening still makes me feel uneasy. Wait. I think about whether or not I might feel the same way. If so, she probably won't show up to school. Yeah, okay, so this dialogue is the same. Oh. It's strange that I should be running from the thought of having to talk to Shizune after spending so much time trying to do just that, but I can't think of any other way I should feel. I had sex with her best friend. I mean, that is awkward. Yeah, you did do that. And you really didn't have to, and on top of that, it was really sad. It was like a very sad having sex with her best friend. And her best friend is a lesbian, so like, pretty awkward. If I feel this way about it, I wonder how Misha must feel. Just as regretful? When she came on to me, she was more depressed than sexy to start with. Yeah. Oh. I can only imagine how much worse it would be now. Thinking about it like that, I want to see her again, but only half-heartedly. The other half of me is still terrified, even though I hate to use that word. It makes me feel ashamed, but I'm sure it's the only way to describe myself right now. It's not a good feeling. Now we learn about Misha's sad backstory.
After all, I've even done something really terrible now. Unforgivably terrible.
Misha presses herself harder against the fence at her back, as if hoping to slip right through it. Don't be stupid. I'm surprised by the tone of my voice. Sorry. I realized I hate it when I'm left feeling regretful over anything. Even so, it's impossible for me to not end up regretting something. Yesterday I did a stupid thing. That's probably part of the reason why I'm here right now, so I could figure out if I could maybe make it right somehow. Do you ever feel that way? You said you've done some terrible things. You can try fixing them.
Hee-chan, isn't that...
I know that she's thinking that I'm saying this more for me than for her. No, it's not. I just think that killing yourself is the biggest regret a person could end up with.
Hee-chan, you're so dramatic.
Whether she was serious, I'll never know. I don't try to find out. As she lets out a sigh and closes her eyes as if going to sleep, I feel that the dangerous mood I was picking up from her has passed. The door behind us opens. It's not a trick. I promise it will be something fun. Misha contrasts the genial smile on Shizune's face with a lonely expression of her own. If Misha is really jealous of me for stealing Shizune away from her, then it'd only make it worse if all three of us were together. I imagine it'd be like rubbing salt in an open wound, so I get the idea to let them spend time together. I'm not so idealistic that I think a single afternoon to themselves will solve everything, but it might help. It seems like the better option than going with them because my presence definitely wouldn't help at all. You two can go have fun then. I'm going to go to bed early. Are you sure? It's barely past lunch. I told you I don't feel too good today. I think I'm coming down with something. I thought that you said excuses like that won't work. She has me there. It's okay, but refusing someone's invitation is rude. I'll expect you to make it up to me. Well, I had sex with your friend. I don't know if you want me to make it up to you for real, though. Shizune turns around and smiles at Misha and starts signing something that I can't see. I assume it's along the lines of, it looks like it's just going to be the two of us. That's good. Is it? Something tells me that it amn't. Bloom. Bloom. To my other self. Okay, so this is after we go to the Shanghai and get the parfait and talk to her. And I think in the other scenario she just is a lot better, and now it seems like she isn't. The next day, Misha is back in class, although still looking pretty sullen. Not that I was expecting her to magically feel better. That would be asking the impossible considering what happened. This time it's Shizune who's out. At first it almost makes me laugh that suddenly whenever one is in class the other isn't. But thinking about it, there's nothing funny at all about it. In fact, I find it hard to concentrate on my work because of it. It could be that she's just sick, or she could simply be skipping class. It could also be something more serious, and I'm tempted to ask Misha if she knows. But I end up doing nothing. Is this present tense? Okay. I don't regret stepping in yesterday, scared that Misha would do something rash. But now I feel like I should give her some space. Eventually the bells ring and Misha gets up for lunch along with everyone else. I decided to eat lunch in an empty classroom today. Just not this one. Unfortunately, a lot of the other students seem to have the same idea, so there aren't a whole lot of empty classrooms to go around. Finally, as I'm about to give up on the idea, I find a dark one at the end of the hall. On turning the lights on, however, I find out that this one isn't empty either. Lily's head turns in my direction, which freaks me out before I realize she probably heard me flipping the light switch.
Hello.
Hey Lily, I didn't think anyone else would be here.
Is that you, Hisao?
Yeah, but you probably knew that already. I turn to leave, which prompts Lily to quickly speak up.
You don't have to leave so quickly. We can both have lunch in the same room. As a matter of fact, I would prefer to eat with someone else.
I'm about to ask her how she knew I was here to eat lunch, but brush it aside. It's just simple common sense, and I don't want to seem too easily impressed. I take a seat at the desk in front of Lily. After reversing it to face hers, I've heard that our minds fill in a lot of what we see based on how we remember seeing it once before or our expectations. Mostly for efficiency, so as not to have to process everything you look at individually. Lily never seems to stop to question any noise, so I wonder is it because her mind is filling in context every time? Or does she not care and just sort of accept things as they fall into place? On her desk there are just a few cookies and a thermos of tea. She must be one of those light lunch types. I bite into my sandwich. Some of the ingredients spill out on the back end.
We haven't spoken in a long time. I'm surprised that you still remember my name. It must be very busy in the student council.
It's different every week. Some weeks are pretty slow. Some weeks I consider taking a sick day. Hold on, Lily. I need a second to catch my breath from inhaling that sandwich.
And how has it been lately?
Unpredictable. I snap my fingers, which from her facial expression upsets her a lot.
I think that you have been hanging out with those two too much.
I guess it is one of Shizune's trademarks. Personally, I like it.
I ignore it.
Her tone doesn't change even slightly, but Lily's mood has obviously dipped. Doesn't seem like it would be easy to. I been trying to figure out how she can make it so loud, but I think I'm damaging my knuckles.
Even if it were loud enough to break the windows, I would ignore it. I'm not a trained seal. I have that luxury.
Damn. Are you still mad about that? I asked the question as carefully and diplomatically as possible, though in the end I'm only asking to satisfy my curiosity.
No, of course not. Although I don't like Shizune. We were in the student council together for a brief time. I wish you hadn't been so quick to join. I don't like the way Shizune runs the student council. Did you know that she scared off most of the old members? That is why I think she tries to surround herself with people who won't oppose her. And they don't. It's like a dependency bubble.
I'm sure that Shizune is aware of what Lily is saying. After all, I can remember her specifically denying it a couple times, which I'd always thought was strange. They say that the more specific a denial, the more likely it is that the allegations are true. In this case, I think I'd disagree. Shizune is the one subject on which her opinion could be called less than objective. Did you tell her that?
Very often.
Lay stops to polish off the last of her tea. I'm running behind on finishing my own lunch and take advantage of the pause to eat as much as possible.
All of her friends are related to the student council, like Misha. I heard things are touchy between her and Misha. Did they have a fight?
Not really.
Is that so? Either way, there's no point in attempting to force them to make up. Always try to confront everything head on is what Shizune would do, but it doesn't work in the real world. At some point, it's just being stubborn, not bravery or good intentions.
That's a little generous, don't you think?
I suppose. What do you think is the best? What do you think is the best to have with tea? Cookies or scones? I like them both in different ways. I couldn't possibly choose. I don't like people who constantly force me to pick sides or want to turn everything into a contest. When I joined the student council, I thought it would just mean helping everything run smoothly and help people out, like being the class representative. Instead, every day consisted of having Shizune stomp around using Misha like a megaphone to talk about how we had to outdo the last student council and create more and more events and make them increasingly larger.
But then the two of you basically want the same thing. All that stuff makes things exciting. I didn't really get it at first, but it's not some ego project. People like fireworks and soba huts, candied apples, and dress-up days or whatever. The more the student council does, the more responsibility the school gives us. It means extra work, but in a way it also means more freedom. You have the pull to do things like organize a big festival, and they'll think you're capable enough to handle it instead of just rejecting it instantly. Anyway, I want that too now. It's got its share of pointless busy work, but there are moments that make it worth it when everything comes together. It gives me something to do. If I were to just go to school day in, day out, I think I'd explode.
I think Yamaku is much more easygoing than other schools.
Yamaku isn't other schools, though. I start slipping into another familiar mentality. In some ways, it's almost too easygoing. And if I were a different person, I'm sure that I would find how easygoing it was to be stifling. Though in any other school, such easiness would just be the normal flow of life. But here, the uneventfulness would be compounded. It would feel different, because I'm not a normal person after all. I'd be reminded of every time I heard the blood beating in my temples, I'd feel patronized and weak, and my bitterness would only grow. Yeah, sure. The point is, I think I understand what it's all about now. You're really giving Shizune too much of a hard time.
That might be true, but when it comes to how she treats individual people, she doesn't do very well.
Unfortunately, that one is a little harder to argue.
Do you have the time? I'd like to go to class in 10 minutes before the bell.
Then you're right on time if you go now. Excusing herself, Lily leaves, and I sit listening to the clicking of her cane as on the floor, fading into the mumble of the other students having conversations in the other classrooms in the hall. I feel exhausted and completely forget that I wanted to talk to Shizune today. So that was different. I think usually I would eat with Shizune and Misha in the other route, After classes the next day... Nope. I head to the student council room to talk to Shizune. Even though she's in class, trying to cut her off and have a conversation with her near the doorway or out in the hall could be a little obstructive. Better to try to meet up with her at the student council room. I take my time heading there, getting a juice from the vending machine on the way. I also go over what I want to say to her in my head. It's nothing too important, only a few questions about upcoming events. The door is unlocked when I get there. I'd think the room was empty too, if I couldn't see Shizune's bag perched on her desk. With the top of her head peeking from behind it, it looks as though she's built herself a little fort. Shizune gives away from behind her bag before picking it up with a finger and moving it out of the way. But after that, she immediately goes back to tapping her pen against the desk and staring into a checklist as if it held the meaning of life itself in it. What do you need? I wanted to see if there was anything I could help with, like all that over there. What are those? I point to the medium-sized stack of folders beside her, but she waves her hand dismissively. I can handle it myself. Then what about the elections? Also, where's Misha? It's going okay, and I told Misha that I was going to handle everything myself. Why? Shizune spins her pen in her hand slowly, working in between each of her fingers, like a needle through a patch of cloth. No reason. Really. No reason. She signs it again for emphasis to shut down the notion that there's anything more behind it. But there is, since she's definitely not acting normally. What's with the silent treatment is the phrase that immediately springs to mind, even though it is hardly the time for humor. It does describe how I feel. We can't communicate normally, so I appreciate the few ways we can. To be shut out like this hurts. It's obvious that whatever her reasons, it's going to be pretty much impossible to talk to Shizune today. Beyond just being stubborn, she seems depressed, but with the way our conversation is going already, I don't see myself being able to find out what she's depressed about. Somehow that only makes me want to find out more, and that means I have to ask Misha. The problem is, I don't really know where Misha goes in her spare time. After asking way more people than I should if they've noticed a girl with bright pink hair around and getting way more negative answers than expected, I finally find a couple who have seen her. By the time I reach the cafeteria where Misha has apparently been the entire time, I've been around the whole school twice and am very tired. I realize I've passed by her before and just didn't see her behind a pillar. Why are you better at finding me than I am at finding you?
You were looking for me, Hee-chan? Who knows? I think it's just coincidence.
You know, the whole point of coincidences is that they aren't consistent.
Ha ha ha.
Are you having a really late lunch?
I didn't get to eat at lunchtime, so yeah. But not too much, so I can still have dinner. Did you want to talk to me about something, Hee-chan?
I don't waste any time. Yeah, the reason I'm here. Did you notice Shizune has been kind of moody today?
I wanted to ask you the same thing, Hee-chan. Well, except she's been this way for a couple days now.
I see.
Hee-chan, do you think it's because of something I did? Do you think I got upset at Shi-chan like last time?
No, she seems angrier at me anyway. I'm not lying. I really don't. Unfortunately, my attempts to assure her of that don't seem to be going so well. In her way, Misha is pretty stubborn too. Eventually, I just head back to my dorm. The last few days have been nothing but a continuously frustrating experience, and they left me drained. I feel tired enough that I decide to take a nap, hoping that maybe I'll figure things out in my sleep. Sleepy time. It's nighttime now. When I wake up, I feel more refreshed, but still without clarity. The only thing that has changed is that it's dark outside. From opening the window a little, I can tell the weather is still kind of nice. After dry swallowing my nighttime pills, I take a little walk to the vending machines. They're out of everything I normally get, so I mash my hands against the buttons until something pops out. The lights are off in the main building, including the student council room, just an offhand observation. As I'm thinking to myself, I hear a rustling behind me. I've seen this movie before, and that is a very ominous sound to hear alone at night. Oh god! Luckily, it's just Kenji, and he wanders out of the bushes in an unusually cheerful mood. Hey. What the hell? Do you just creep up on people at night and casually go hey a lot? Nah, that'd be weird. I knew it was you. I have extremely good night vision. Maybe it's because I'm superhuman. What are you doing here then? I could ask you the same thing. What are you doing here? I considered just telling him the truth, but quickly decided against it. It would take too long to explain. Howling at the moon. I do that too sometimes. The moon isn't out tonight, though. I barely even hear him, feeling a bit resentful at the interpretation. I lied to Shizune through my teeth that nothing was wrong, or to be more exact, I lied through my hands, and at the exact same time I was carrying on an entirely different conversation with Misha. That conversation understandably could upset Shizune, but there was no way that she could have heard it. Even Misha's hands, usually signing all her thoughts, were completely still. Even if they weren't, I was still standing in front of her, blocking them from Shizune's view. The only way that Shizune could listen in on that conversation would be if she could read lips. Pretty much the first thing I'd ask about when taking sign language was about lip reading, just out of curiosity. It's not easy, nor is it perfect, so I'd never considered it until now. It would make sense, and the room for misunderstanding while reading lips wouldn't help. So I realized that I could use the cover of darkness to buy milk. Usually I only go out when it's raining, or I can shroud myself in a sea of bikers or tourists. This is much more consistent. I'm spending too much money on milk now, though. You seem kind of mopey or out of it or something. Don't think too hard. A man has to be all about action. You can think about stuff all day, but changing the situation around by doing something is the best way. I do things all the time without thinking about it. That's why in middle school they called me Causes Many Problems. I thought it was a cool, sounds like an Indian name. I'm not really in the mood. I'm never in the mood for Kenji. Having a bad day? Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of distracted right now. So distracted that it doesn't hit me until he leaves that his was actually kind of sound advice. I think Shizune would have given me the same suggestion. By then it's too late to thank him politely. I responded in the rudest tone possible. I just feel like an ass. In retrospect, these past few days I've regretted every action I've taken. The worst part is that I haven't taken the time to stew over them, and in doing so, learn from them. This has led to more regrets. Boo boo boo, boo boo boo, boo boo boo. As it would turn out, sleeping with your girlfriend's best friend. Not the move. Imagine. Quickly. Nope. Quickly putting on the rest of my clothes, I open it without really stopping to think about who could be behind it. It turns out to be Shizune. Misha told me that you were looking for me. I'm a bit hurt that I don't even get a good morning, but it's not too big a deal. I was. But you found me yesterday. Shizune's fingers trace a crack in the wall. It seems like she's trying her best to look distant. Well, I didn't make it easy, did I? It's alright. That's why I'm here. We can talk today, although I kind of want to go somewhere else. What about class? Fuck class. It's fine, it's fine. How about we take a walk around the school? Everywhere except the main building is going to be deserted. The first period bell should be ringing right now. I take a quick glance at my watch and see that she's right. Oops. Okay. Is there something wrong? Why do you think there's something wrong? Because you're obviously upset, I could just tell. It's what I wanted to talk to you about. Shizune quickly cracks her knuckles while I assign to her. Apparently I'm easier to read than I'd thought. I was trying hard to hide it. Can you tell what I'm thinking right now? I don't respond, and Shizune heads towards the door, slowly enough that I can tell she wants me to follow her. Her hands are folded behind her back, which is arched against them, as though she is about to bend over backwards at any second. Outside I see Shizune is right. The school's completely deserted, although it's not the first time seeing the school like this. It's kind of eerie. Oh, this is a new place. Shizune acts as though I'm not there, browsing a vending machine and taking a slow and winding path until we end up behind a main building. Finally, she leans against a wall and faces me, but it's like I've forgotten how to start a conversation. There is a saying, you don't know how much you've screwed up until you screw up. Who says that? I guess it's me. Reconsidering her train of thought, she waves her hands in frustration. Okay, I'll put it differently. When I was younger, we had to make posters for Earth Day in school. There was another girl in my class whom everyone considered the best artist. It wasn't because she could draw better than everyone else, it was how much she could fit into a single picture. I wanted to be better than her, so I made countless posters until I ended up with the best possible one. I had to be the best and have the greatest one. In the end, everyone liked my poster the most of all, even the teacher. A week later, it was meaningless. I threw it in the trash. I think I've told you something like this before. Yeah. When I feel like I'm finished, I wish I could just wipe the slate clean. Whether I succeed or not, I put Misha through a lot and even dragged you into it. And every point where I could have solved this silly situation or prevented it from happening in the first place keeps coming back to me. It's the worst feeling, especially when I feel like I've done nothing right and everything wrong. Like recently, it's the worst kind of failure. I feel like a failure on every level. I wish I could wipe away everything I've done and just be alone, since all I've done is mess with Misha for 2 years and jerk you around for a year for selfish reasons. It's fine. No, it's not. You don't understand. I was just thinking about it. Everything I do feels like I have to beat someone else. Everyone else, even. If that is how it is, then what are my relationships with people? They almost feel the same. I can see where this is going. The point is that I've messed up so many people by being selfish, and now I want to be away from other people for a while. Even me, especially you. There's a pause. Yes. Followed by an even longer pause, this time for me. I see. That's the most selfish thing you could do. It's just you making another decision by yourself. For a minute, it looks as though she's considering the best way to respond, but in the end, she simply nods, which I think is the best way to respond anyway. It's very like her to be roundabout even now, but ultimately without excuses. All my emotions simmer inside me. I see a kettle in front of me, water rolling inside it, so close that I can touch it and feel the heat radiating off of it. I'm glad for the distraction because I know there's no recourse or bargaining possible. She told me that everything was fine, but it wasn't true, was it? Or you told me. I can't believe it ever again then. Yeah, you told me. Alright. Not even bothering to sign it, I stand up, my hands are in my pockets, fingering my loose change. The morning air is cold against my face. Oh, she has the little cat that we got her. As I look back at her, she seems very lonely. I'm reminded of myself. I've made that expression before. Maybe it's on my face right now. It feels like the image of such a lonely girl will stick in my mind forever. Every moment where I could have prevented this or solved the problem comes back to me. It makes me smile in a way without amusement. That was abrupt. Skip. Okay, I think that's everything. Let me check. Oh, that's not how we check. This is how. Yep. Alright. So, that was Shizune's route. Honestly, I kinda like the the bad route better. I mean, it's definitely like more fucked up, but I don't know. It makes more sense, realistically, I guess. I don't know. I guess if he didn't sleep with her, then it would have ended up fine, maybe. Maybe I'm just sadistic. Maybe I just like to see people suffer. But, yeah. Oh, I got the good end, too. I think I got Lily's good end first as well. But that one seemed extra easy since it was obviously like, just don't have sex with Shizune. Duh. Dumbass. But yeah, so
that's it for Shizune's route. And we will start the final route, Emi's route, in the next